Right, welcome everybody. Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Dennis, and I'm a volunteer history group guide at Bannerman House near Stirling, where Prince Charles Edward Stewart was in residence from January 3rd to the 31st of January 1746, as a guest of Sir Hugh Paterson III, who was a staunch Jacobite. This was the Prince's headquarters during the siege of Stirling Castle and the Battle of Falkirk, Muir, January 17th, 1746. I am also a member of the 1745 Association. My hobby is vexillology, the study and design of flag making. I have, over a period of 10 years, replicated most all of the Jacobite clan flags and regimental banners of the 1745-46 Rising. In 2019, most of these flags were displayed on Culloden Field on the anniversary of the Battle of and during the Gaelic Society of Inverness Memorial Service. Tonight, I will present the flags of the Jacobite Army, which were captured on the battlefield of Culloden and subsequently burnt at the Market Cross in Edinburgh on Wednesday, the 4th of June, 1746. You're looking at the main hall of Bannerman House. It's the Relay Hall, and this hall was built, commissioned by Sir Hugh Paterson in 1675. The ornate ceilings were done by Hulbert and Dunstonfield, whom Sir Hugh must have met in Edinburgh when he was the signet to the Crown. And obviously, he got these guys to come through to Bannerman House and do the ceiling of this wonderful mansion house, Jacobite style. It was commissioned in 1675. They also done the principal bedroom of Sir Hugh. So that's what I'll, as much as I'll talk about that, we'll go on to the flags. So can we move on to the first slide, Stephen?
Oh, God.
Thank you. Okay, this flag is the very first flag that I replicated when I started off with my hobby as vexillology. It depicts McDonald of Keppoch. The Keppoch Regiment was raised and commanded by the Chief Alexander McDonald of Keppoch, ably supported by his brother Donald as his Lieutenant Colonel and his cousin German Donald MacDonald of Turnerdurish as the Major. To the Keppoch MacDonalds went the honour of opening hostilities when 11 of their number and Piper, commanded by Turnerdurish, succeeded by an action by preventing 2 companies of the Royal Scots crossing the River Speen at High Bridge, forcing them to retreat to Lagan Acadrome, where they were surrounded by Keppoch and his reinforcements, and the Royal Scots surrendered. Keppoch led 300 men to the raising of the standard at Glenfinnan on the 19th of August, 1745. At the Battle of Glasmuir, Keppoch's brother, Captain Archibald MacDonald, was killed, reinforced by 100 McKinnons under their chief and some MacDonalds of Glencoe. They marched into England. At Falkirk, they were 600 strong, having been reinforced by the MacGregors of Glengyle. Unfortunately, the gallant Turnerdurish was captured during the Battle of Falkirk. He was executed at Carlisle in the aftermath of Culloden. At Culloden, the Keppoch Regiment, around 200 strong, stood alongside Clanranald and Glengarry regiments on the left of the front line. The gallant Keppoch and his brother were both killed trying to advance the Jacobite left wing. The regiment suffered very casualties and was led from the field by Keppoch's natural son, Angus Ban. They disbanded at Fort Augustus around the 18th of April 1746. Their colours, being captured on the field, were burnt at Glasgow in June 1746. Another slide, Steve. Right. I'll start off in the Edinburgh Market Cross burning. The flags of the 45 that were burnt by the public hangman John Dalgleish on Wednesday, the 4th of June, 1746. 14 Jacobite colours were reported to have been captured at Culloden, and descriptions survive on a receipt given for them by a Major Hugh Wentford of the 6th Foot on the 11th of May, 1746. It is also recorded that soldiers who had personally captured Jacobite standards were paid 16 guineas from the Duke of Cumberland's coffers. The flags were carried in a procession by chimney sweeps and low-life members of Edinburgh to the Market Cross. A senior herald read out the proclamation that these scraps of silk and braids be burnt by the public hangman by order of His Royal Highness the Duke of Cumberland, commonly known as the Butcher. One was burnt at the Market Cross in Glasgow. I've just said that. That being the colour carried McDonald of Keppoch. The flags burnt at Edinburgh, the first one that was burnt was the Prince's Standard. This was a standard that, as you see here, red background, blue apron, and a white circle. It's said that this, when the Prince Charles Edward Stewart Standard, the Prince left France for Scotland on the 7th of July, 1745, on board the Dutillé, accompanied by 7 men of Moidat. They had a French warship, the Elizabeth, as an escort, and on the 9th of July, they were intercepted by HMS Lion of the Royal Navy. An intense naval bombardment took place, which lasted around 4 hours. Both French ships managed to escape, but the Lion had to retreat, badly damaged, back to its home port, as did that Elizabeth, also badly damaged, went back to France. The Prince sailed on and landed with the 7 men of Moidat on the island of Eriskay on the 23rd of July, 1745. He was advised to return home to France. He responded by saying, "Sir, I am come home." On the 19th of August, 1745, the Prince's Standard was raised at Glenfinnan. It is said that the Clanranald woman hastily embroidered a nautical signal flag from the Dutillé as the Royal Standard was with the Elizabeth. Next slide. The next one up was a white linen colour belonging to the Farquharsons. The Farquharsons of Monaltrie battalion, this was sometimes referred to as the Mar battalion of Lord Lewis Gordon's regiment, raised in Braemar and Upper Deeside. Both Monaltrie and a plain white colour belonging to the regiment were captured at Culloden, where the unit had fought in the first line. Next slide, Stephen. Next one up is a white linen colour with the motto Firus Furio, the Chisholm of Strathglass. This very small unit, effectively an independent company of no more than 80 strong, was led by a Roderick Chisholm. Surprisingly, it did not join the Jacobite army till March 1746, and then reputedly suffered very heavy losses at Culloden. Their white colours is the Chisholm motto as seen here. Next slide. This next one is a blue silk colour with the motto Sursum Tendo, belonging to Sir James Kinloch, commander of the 2nd Battalion, Lord Ogilvy Regiment. Colonel Sir James Kinloch, commander of Lord Ogilvy's 2nd Battalion, formed to hold the Angus district for the Prince and assist with the landing of troops and supplies from France. This is the personal flag belonging to the Kinloch family with their motto, Sursum Tendo. Next slide, Stephen. This is a white silk colour with the Stuart arms and motto, God Save the King, probably carried by Lord Kilmarnock's Foot Guards. Lord Kilmarnock's Foot Guards, this was a composite regiment formed in March 1746 by combining the then dismounted Lord Kilmarnock's horse and Lord Sligo's horse with James Crichton of Auchingill's regiment and adding some new recruits from Aberdeenshire forced out by Kilmarnock's formidable mother-in-law, Lady Errol. Chevalier Johnson and Lord Elcho stated that the Foot Guards were over 200 strong at Culloden, and the magnificent colour bearing the Stuart arms was certainly carried by this regiment. Next slide. A white silk colour in the canton of St Andrew's Cross, belonging to Bannerman of Elsick's regiment. Bannerman of Elsick's regiment was a very small regiment of no more than 150 men, raised by Sir Alexander Bannerman of Elsick in the Stonehaven area after Prestonpans and largely employed on internal security duties. Finlayson's map of Culloden shows the regiment standing to the left rear of the army near King's Stables, but it is more likely that it was absorbed into Lord Kilmarnock's Foot Guards sometime in March 1746. A white colour with St Andrew's saltire in the canton is illustrated. Next slide, Stephen. This is a white silk colour with red saltire, and if you move the slide on one place, there's a white silk colour with a blue saltire. These two colours belong to the Atholl Brigade. The Atholl Brigade was made up of 3 battalions commanded by the Duke of Atholl. It had 3 battalion commanders: Lord Nairn, the Honourable Robert Mercer of Aldie, and the Lord George Murray. Lord Nairn had raised a unit of approximately 250 men from the Dunkeld area and joined the Prince at Holyrood on the 18th September 1745 and was present at Glasmuir. At the Battle of Falkirk, the 3 battalions were commanded by Lord George Murray, and they alone of the second line of troops kept their ranks throughout the battle, led by their commander, who decided to press home the advantage they advanced downhill in perfect order. At the Battle of Culloden, the Atholl men were well up to strength, and the brigade were posted on the extreme right of the front line. In the retreat, the right front line moved back in an orderly fashion to the rendezvous at Ruthin Barracks. Both Minges of Sheehan and Mercer of Aldie were killed at Culloden. Lord George Murray escaped and died in Holland in 1780. Next slide, Stephen. These two flags are the two blue silk colours belonging to Lovat Clan Fraser, Lord Lovat's regiment. The whole Clan Fraser were formed into 3 regiments, commanded by the Master of Lovat, Charles Fraser of Inverality, and James Fraser of Foyers. The latter certainly commanded the force that unsuccessfully attacked Culloden House on 27th October 1745, which was eventually taken over by the elderly Lord Lovat's son, the Master of Lovat. About 300 men fought at Falkirk, and Inveralities had the same deployed at Culloden. The Master of Lovat's battalion missed taking part in the battle by a matter of hours. A blue colour bearing the Lovat arms was captured at Culloden, and later the Master of Lovat's standard was captured. Next slide. That is the Master of Lovat's standard. Eyewitness reports at Simon Fraser's trial reported that there was 2 camp colours, camp followers, both blue with stag insignia. So both of them are reported to have been burnt at the Market Cross in Edinburgh. Next slide. This is a piece of blue silk colour with a St Andrew's saltire with the motto, "Commit the work to God," reported to belonging to the Cromartie's regiment. The Earl of Cromartie's regiment, although raised in Northern Highlands after Prestonpans by George Mackenzie, Earl of Cromartie, and his son John Mackenzie, Lord Mackenzie, and very substantially made up of the Clan Mackenzie. This was not really a clan levy. Some of the men turned out as tenants and followers of Cromartie, but otherwise it was the usual mixture of volunteers and pressed men. Highland clothes were being made for this regiment in October 1745. It was approximately 200 strong at Falkirk, but having been sent north in the search of the French gold, it was ambushed and destroyed in a running fight with loyalist militia at Embo near Golspie on the 15th of April 1746. It is possible that a blue colour bearing a white saltire and the Sinclair motto was carried by one of the regiment's companies. Next slide. This is now Jacobite colours that are in existence. The other ones were the ones that were reputed to have been burnt at the Market Cross in Edinburgh. We are now going on to the ones which are on this public display in displays all across Scotland. So we'll start with the Cameron colours. These 2 colours belonging to Clan Cameron. The red ruddy banner is the Clan Cameron battle flag. Cameron of Lochiel Regiment, effectively the first to be raised. This was always one of the strongest Jacobite units and generally regarded as an elite, although very badly armed. Donald Cameron of Lochiel brought some 750 men to the gathering at Glenfinnan on the 19th of August, but 150 of them were subsequently sent home because they were unarmed, and stragglers reduced the regiment to about 500 at Prestonpans. While the army was in England, Ludovic Cameron of Torcastle levied out a further 300 men for the regiment. so it still appears to have been 700 strong at Culloden, although suffering heavy losses there. It was not disbanded until 27th of May 1746. Two colours are known and illustrated, one being the simple red and yellow striped banner, and the other a red banner bearing the arms of Cameron, called the Ruddy Banner. Both are reputed to be in a private collection of Cameron of Lochiel. Can you show the next slide, Stephen, of the Cameron battle flag? That's the Cameron battle flag. Two colours. These are the ones that are associated with Clan Cameron. Next slide. This flag is Lord Ogilvy's 2nd Battalion, which is on display in the McDonald Art Gallery in Dundee. Lord Ogilvy's regiment, a large and well-disciplined unit raised in Forfarshire, now Angus, by David Lord Ogilvy, the eldest son of the Earl of Airlie. The 1st Battalion, some 200 strong, joined the army at Edinburgh after Prestonpans and served throughout the rest of the campaign. While the army was in England, a 2nd and larger battalion was raised by Sir James Kinloch, and elements of it took part in some scrappy fighting around Montrose and at Inverurie. Both battalions served together at Falkirk and Culloden. After the army dispersed at Ruthven Barracks on the 19th of April 1746, it continued home as a military unit before disbanding at Glenclover on the 21st of April. The two colours associated with the 2nd Battalion are illustrated, one bearing a small white saltire in the centre and the other having the Kinloch arms. The original flag can still be seen in the Dundee Museum. Next slide, Stephen. Right, this is the Appin Stewart Standard. The Stewarts of Appin Regiment. This regiment joined the Prince's Army in August 1745 at Invergary. It consisted of about 300 fighting men. It was commanded by Charles Stewart of Ardshiel. They fought at Glasmuir, Clifton, Falkirk and Culloden. At Culloden, it formed part of the right front line alongside the men of Atholl and the Camerons. When the charge came, they managed to reach the Hanoverian front line, but had to retreat under superior musket volleys from Barrow's regiment. The casualties at Culloden were 92 killed and 65 seriously wounded. The Appin Standard was carried onto the field by Dougal Stewart, one of the Ardshiel family. He was killed in the Highland charge. Thereafter, successive bearers were shot down upholding the banner. When the retreat began, a certain Donald Livingston, Domel Moa, or Harry Donald, turned back under fire and rescued the banner. It thus escaped the fate of many other captive banners on that day. This banner is now on display in the National Museum in Edinburgh, directly opposite Barrow's standard of the 4th suit. Next slide. This banner belongs to John Gordon of Glenbucket. It is reputed to be in a private collection. John Gordon of Glenbucket's regiment, raised from all parts of the Duke of Gordon's estate, mostly drawn from Strathdon, Glenlivet, and Strathbogie. His son-in-law, Mr. Forbes of Skeletor, Lieutenant Colonel George Forbes of Skeletor, also brought him some of his corps from Strathdon, a country belonging mostly to gentlemen of that name, formerly vassals of the Earl of Mar, now of Lord Bracco. Although taking part in the march to Derby, the regiment was not present at Falkirk, being assigned instead to blockade Stirling Castle, but it was at Culloden and later probably disbanded at Rutland Barracks on the 18th of April, 1746. A white colour bearing the ducal arms survives. These colours were also carried by Glenbucket at Sheriff Muir in 1715, when he was Lieutenant Colonel of the Marquis of Huntly's regiment. Next slide, Stephen. Yeah, this is a very one of my ones that I've been trying to find for a long time. It is reputed that it's the green flag of Kincardine. The green flag of Kincardine belonged to John Roy Stewart's regiment. The last known whereabouts given to this flag is in possession of the Duke of Gordon in the 1900s. John Roy Stewart's regiment, also known as the Edinburgh Regiment. This was initially recruited in the city by Stewart, an experienced soldier who was a captain of the Grenadiers in the Royal Ecosse at that time. It appears to have included a large number of former British Army personnel. The regiment took part in the march to Derby, but was not present at Falkirk, being assigned instead to blockade Stirling Castle. At Culloden, it was about 200 strong, eventually standing in the front line next to the Stuarts of Appin. Two colours attributed to this regiment, the green flag of Kincardine and another bearing the Stuart coat of arms. Next slide. Well, this is another well-known, this time it's a lady, Lady Anne Macintosh's regiment, Clan Chatton regiment. Again, this flag is lost to us, unknown, but Lady Anne Macintosh's regiment in 1744, Aeneas Macintosh, 22nd Chief of the Macintoshes and 23rd of Clan Chatton, raised a new company for the Black Watch and was appointed to command it. When the 1745 rising started, he was in the army and resolved to remain faithful to his oath of allegiance to King George. In 1741, he married Lady Anne Farquharson, who came from a staunch Jacobite family. In the late 1745, with her husband serving in Lord Loudon's regiment, she raised a company of 300 men under the command of Alexander MacGillivray of Drumnaglass. They joined the Prince's army at Perth in January 1746 and took part in the Battle of Falkirk, where they fought side by side with the Macphersons in the centre. At Culloden, they, as part of the Clan Chatton regiment, were in the centre of the front line and led the charge into Barrow's regiment. They sustained very heavy casualties and their commander, Alexander MacGillivray, was killed. Their colours were saved from being captured by Donald Macintosh, who removed the flag from its staff, wrapped it round his body, and escaped the field. Next slide. Right, this is one of the captured British Army flags. It belongs to Gardiner's 13th Cavalry. The Prince's Life Guards, Edward Stewart, Prince Charles Edward Stewart had a mounted life guard from the very beginning of his stay in Scotland, but it was not properly formed until the army was at Edinburgh. It numbered around 160 officers, gentlemen and servants, all wearing blue coats with red facings. Like most Jacobite cavalry units, it was comprised of two troops, one commanded by Lord Elcho and the other commanded by the Honourable Arthur Elphiston, who succeeded his elder brother as Lord Balmerino on 5th of January 1746. Elcho's was the larger of the two troops and was 30 strong at Culloden. John Daniel, an English volunteer serving in Balmerino's troop, recorded that at Elgin it was given a curious fine standard with the motto "Britain Strike Home" that was taken at Falkirk from Gardiner's 13th Dragoons. It was probably a cavalry guidon and green in colour with a Union flag in the canton on the opposite side. Daniel safely kept it, and in the aftermath of Culloden, it was stolen by two deserters from the Irish Piquet, identified as Joseph and William Bowes from Westmeath, who had been serving in the Royal Ecossais and Regiment Ruth, respectively. Next slide.